It is Wednesday, April the 19th, as these first-round playoff series roll right along. 3 games on tap for tonight. I'll only be involved in 2 of them, though. The late game, Portland at Golden State. The Warriors a 15-point favorite. I am just not comfortable with that number. Also stayed away from Game 1 in that series when Golden State was a 14.5-point favorite. Not sure if you saw the end of that Game 1, but the Warriors were up 13, I believe, with less than a minute left. Then Kevin Durant hit that little baseline jumper to put them up 15. But of course, they were playing no defense by that time because the game had already been decided. It was essentially garbage time. So Portland went right back and scored on the other end. I told a friend who I was watching the game with, I looked at him, I said, I am so glad I was not involved in this game. And again, I'm staying away from Game 2 also, but we'll revisit that series when it moves to Portland. I am going to be involved in the other 2 games here tonight, though. Let's go ahead and go through them now quickly. Why don't we start in Washington, where the Wizards host the Atlanta Hawks. Wizards, of course, coming away with a 114-107 win in Game 1 of this series, and they're a 5-point favorite here in Game 2, 210.5 the total at BetSafe. Now, we were on the losing end in Game 1. We had Atlanta plus 4.5, but after watching the game, even though we lost, it came away not necessarily feeling like we were wrong, if you know what I mean. The Hawks played them tough. They were in control of the game throughout the first half. Now, the Wizards took control in the third quarter, but even then, the Hawks wouldn't go away, and they nearly pulled out the backdoor cover there at the end before falling just short and, again, losing by 7. But these Hawks are not going to go away in this series. Atlanta, a tough team, playing very well right now. They had won 6 of their final 8 games in the regular season, and most of their good play recently can be chalked up to an uptick on the offensive end. This Hawks team ranked bottom 5 in the NBA in terms of offensive efficiency throughout the regular season, but they've really found something on that end of the floor lately. They're averaging over 116 points per game in their last 4 wins. And again, they scored 107 in Game 1. That should be enough for this Hawks team to win or come real close to winning because they're very good on the defensive end. The Hawks, 4th in the NBA in defensive efficiency, top 10 in points allowed and opponents' field goal percentage allowed. But they just could not corral John Wall in Game 1. Wall with 32 points and 14 assists. Just killed the Hawks on that pick and roll. But as we said, the Hawks, an excellent defensive team. Mike Budenholzer, an excellent coach. I'm sure he'll have something cooked up here for this game too. And I think we'll see the Hawks be much more physical in general. Washington really pushed them around a little bit in Game 1. We heard Paul Millsap talk afterwards about how the Wizards were, quote-unquote, playing MMA out there. Didn't get the feeling that Millsap liked it. It felt like he thought that the Hawks were sort of punked in the game. And the Hawks usually a very tough physical team. Guys like Millsap, Dwight Howard, Dennis Schroeder, these guys do not get pushed around on a nightly basis. And I think Atlanta's going to come out here with an inspired physical effort in Game 2. Are the Wizards going to be able to stop this Hawks team that, again, was not particularly good offensively throughout most of the season? I'm not sure they will. Tim Hardaway, not a good game for Atlanta in Game 1, just 2 for 11 shooting. I think we can expect a better performance than that from him in Game 2. And as we said, the Hawks playing very well on offense lately, and the Wizards bottom 10 in the NBA in terms of defensive efficiency, points allowed, opponents' field goal percentage allowed. They're not a particularly good defensive team. We know they're very inconsistent, are the Wizards, just 8-9 in their final 17 regular season games. And we saw their inconsistency in Game 1. They came out very flat in the first quarter, especially when their bench unit came in. They allowed the Hawks to really grab control of the game. Then the Wizards looked like world beaters for a time there in the third quarter before falling asleep for a stretch in the fourth. I don't trust this Washington team. And again, I think Atlanta's been playing very well lately. They're a tough team. I think the Hawks are going to really give the Wizards a run in this game, and they might win it outright, but I think the 5 points could really come in handy. I think Atlanta plus 5. Even though they let us down in Game 1, I think the Hawks plus 5, a good bet here in Game 2. Moving on now to Houston, where the Rockets host the Oklahoma City Thunder. Houston, an 8-point favorite here at BetSafe, 223 the total. Now, we were on Houston in Game 1, -7, and they covered easily. It was a real blowout, 118-87, especially in the second half. The Rockets just blew their doors off. First half, it was actually quite competitive. But look, we're going to see that a lot, I think, in this series. The Rockets are just too much on the offensive end in the long haul for this Thunder team, which is why I believe Houston will win this series. But I'll tell you what, we saw a couple of things in Game 1 that we're not going to see again. And a couple of reasons why I think the Thunder might be a team to keep an eye on here in Game 2. Number one, the Oklahoma City Thunder only scored 33 points in the second half of that game. I mean, that's just not going to happen again. The Thunder, an excellent offensive team with perhaps the most explosive player in the NBA in Russell Westbrook, and the Rockets are not good defensively. Houston surrendered 109.6 points per game in the regular season. That was 26 in the NBA, and you can talk to me all you want about pace and tempo. Look, the Rockets do not guard very well. Yes, they have a couple of good defensive players on their roster. Patrick Beverley, certainly, Trevor Ariza when he's locked in. But when you have James Harden, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, Lewis Williams all playing heavy minutes, you are not going to be very good defensively. And I'm telling you right now, there's a better chance that the Thunder score over 33 in one quarter tonight than there is that they're held to 33 or below in a half again. That's just not going to happen again. Another thing that's probably not going to happen again in this series, did you see what Houston did on the glass in Game 1? Out-rebounding the Thunder 56-41 and pulling down 14 offensive rebounds. Now, this Rockets team, they score easy enough as it is. It's tough to stop them from scoring as it is. They do not need to be getting 14 second chance opportunities. And that was especially unusual because this Oklahoma City Thunder team, the single best rebounding team in the NBA this season, they led the league in rebounds, rebounding differential, offensive rebounding percentage. The Thunder rebounding nearly 28% of their misses. That led the NBA. Steven Adams with just 5 rebounds in 28 minutes in Game 1. Taj Gibson with just 1 rebound in 21 minutes. Folks, that is not going to happen again. You can be sure that Billy Donovan and this Oklahoma City coaching staff has been on the Thunder front court. And really, it's not just the front court because the Thunder, their guards can rebound as well. This is going to be a team effort on the glass here in Game 2 for Oklahoma City. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw that rebounding stat reversed and if we saw the Thunder out-rebound the Rockets by 15 and if we saw the Thunder snag 14 or 15 offensive rebounds. That would be more like what we've seen throughout the regular season. So again, Game 1, we saw a couple of things happen that aren't going to happen much. The Thunder had an uncharacteristically poor half on the offensive end, and they were beaten up on the glass. And I don't think that's going to happen here in Game 2. Now, the rest of it, the Rockets putting up 118 points, look, that's going to happen. Houston scores. But normally, Oklahoma City, they can score as well. And I think we're going to see that here in Game 2. Russell Westbrook, 6 of 23 in Game 1. We know the Thunder cannot be competitive in this series if Westbrook goes 6 of 23. But look, we saw the way he bounced back from poor games in the regular season. Those poor games were few and far between, but Westbrook usually responded with a monster performance, and I expect something like that here in Game 2. Look, we were on Houston in Game 1, and they covered for us easily, but not sure that is the right play here in Game 2. The Rockets were very inconsistent throughout the regular season. They suffered some bad losses. Wouldn't surprise me at all if the Thunder snuck out of here with a win, but I'm definitely taking the points. This one could be closer, I think, than the experts believe. OKC +8, a good-looking play here, I think, in Game 2. There you have it, folks. Those are my thoughts for this Wednesday, April the 19th. I like the Atlanta Hawks +5 in Washington, Game 2 of their series. And I like OKC +8 in Houston. Wish you the best of luck, whatever you decide to do tonight, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests.